40 years back in November 1984, 4,000 Sikhs were killed in Delhi, the capital of India. The genocide continued unabated for 3 days. Every minute, one Sikh was killed on the streets of Delhi. After the genocide, the guilty were given high positions and they were given the position of power. For 40 years, the victims are still waiting for justice. The cases for the justice to the victims are still continuing even now. I, H.S. Phoolka, a senior advocate, has been handling these cases right from number 1984 onwards. Through this video series, we have made an effort to bring to you how this massacre was planned. It's an effort to take you through the whole entire journey of this 14 years.
Hi everyone and welcome to today's episode. My name is Neetika Khaitan and I am a lawyer pursuing a PhD in history at Yale University in the United States. It is my pleasure to be joined by senior advocate H.S. Phoolka, who for the last 4 decades has worked on cases related to the 1984 anti-Sikh pogrom in Delhi. Thank you so much, Phoolka sir, for joining us. Despite the widespread horror of that time, there are also several reports of ordinary non-Sikh and Hindu residents and neighbors doing their best to save innocent Sikhs from marauding mobs. Could you tell us about a few of these incidents?
There are many such cases, maybe a number in hundreds and more, even in thousands. But I tell you specific 3-4 cases where even at the cost of their own, risking their own life, they helped. Now, one very prominent case is of Ram Bilas Paswan. Ram Bilas Paswan, he was member of parliament at that time. Later on, he was union minister, he became. And that time, first Ram Bilas Paswan along with Charan Singh, Devi Lal, I mentioned you in the other episode that they went to the president, they were pressing upon the president to call the army, they were trying to contact the home minister, and what they didn't succeed. Now, Ram Bilas Paswan has filed his affidavits before the Mishra Commission and also gave his statement before Nanavati Commission. And he says when he came back to his home after the meeting the president, and he found that at his home, before he arrived, some mob was there going in front of the house. There was a taxi stand in front of his house. His house was at Rajendra Prasad Road, which is right in the close to Connaught Place, right in the central Delhi. Rajendra Prasad house, the house number was 12. They set the taxi stand on fire. There was an old Sikh gentleman. They were beating him. He somehow ran and managed to enter inside Ram Bilas Paswan's house. The mob followed him, but Ram Bilas Paswan's security guard, he shut the doors to stop the mob from coming in, and he didn't allow them to come in. When Ram Bilas Paswan reached home, there were some MLAs from Bihar there at his house. They told him about the Sikh and they tried to give him the first aid, but he was very severely injured. So he say he called up police many times. He called up a number 100. He even called up the home minister, spoke to the private secretary that please send some ambulance to take him to the hospital. Otherwise, it's not safe for us to take him out. The mob is still roaming around outside. And he said nothing happened, nobody came. But after some time, a huge mob, they came from the side of, there's a Youth Congress I office very close to Ram Bilas Paswan's house. From that side, a huge mob came and they got Ram Bilas Paswan's house. They tried to enter. The security guard locked the gate. They tried to break the gate. The security guard fired in the air to scare them, but they were so huge, such a huge number that they broke the gate and came inside into the rooms, and they set the house on fire. The Pasma says that to save our lives, we had to run from servant quarters. We ran, jumped out the backside wall to go across. He said, we ran and jumped, but that old gentleman, he could not run. While he was coming to jump, the mob caught hold of him, that they were already there. And they set his house on fire, and in the burning fire, they threw that Sikh inside there. He said, when we were in the backside of our house, from there we saw on the main road a police gypsy is patrolling. So the police was very much there when his house was set on fire. And he said after that, after mob went away, and Chaudhary Charan Singh somehow came to know about that attack on Ram Bilas Paswan house. Because Chaudhary Charan Singh was ex-prime minister, so he came with his personal force, which was given to him, and evacuated Ram Bilas Paswan and the other MLA, Bihar MLAs who were in that house. So this is the state of affair. Ram Bilas Paswan, this is his affidavit which he filed before Mishra Commission, and he narrated the whole story in that affidavit. What has happened? Now, this is the statement which he gave before Nanavati Commission, and here also he has narrated the whole story. Now, that was the state of affair. I mean, anyone, even giving a shelter to a Sikh, even he was targeted. Now, there are two other cases of this kind. There is the case of Mandodari Devi. This is her affidavit before Mishra Commission. Now, Mandodari Devi's husband, Hari Singh, was head constable in the police. They were in Jahangirpuri. In the morning, the mob attacked. They were killing the Sikhs. So, Hari Singh came out. Hari Singh tried to stop them. He was off duty. The mob didn't stop. He insisted and that he will protect his Sikh neighbors. The mob ultimately beaten him up, very badly beat him up. Some neighbors came. His younger brother Durga Prasad also came, tried to save him. They even had beaten up him badly. Hari Singh was badly injured. Even Durga Prasad was injured. And mob, the Sikh house, they burned and they killed them. Mandodari Devi says we tried to take Hari Singh to hospital. The mob stopped them, didn't allow him to take. The head constable of police, the mob didn't allow to take him to the hospital. And he died there. This is the Mandodari Devi. Now, later on, another incident is of Satya Devi. This is in Palam Colony. The mob attacked the houses of the Sikhs, and their neighbor Baldev Singh, his wife Sarjeet Kaur, she used to call Satya Devi's husband, this Prakash Chand. Surjit Kaur used to call Prakash Chand as brother and used to tie Rakhi. So they were like brother sisters. Prakash, when the house of Baldev Singh was attacked, the Prakash Chand went to his house, tried to stop the mob. They killed Baldev Singh and they killed Prakash Chand also. Prakash Chand was also killed there. This is the affidavit of Satya Devi. She filed this affidavit before Mishra Commission and then also gave a statement before Nanavati Commission. Now later on, the president of Akali Dal, Sant Harchand Singh Longowal, he came and he honored both of them, Satya Devi and Mandodari Devi, and they were even called to Amritsar by HGPC, and they were honored there also. There are many cases like this, but these are two specific which the bodily harm was caused to them. One more non-Sikh who was killed was Prabhu Dayal. Now, Madhu Kishwar, she has mentioned about in detail in her affidavit also, and she also mentioned about him in the Manushi magazine details, and her widow Atam Devi. Now Madhu Kishwar has narrated the whole story in the affidavit that they called Sant Longowal from Punjab to honor Atam Devi, and Madhu Kishwar organized a function to that the Prabhu Dayal had given his life to save the lives of the Sikhs. She say some Congress high people came, they disturbed the function. They were not allowing them to hold the function to pay tribute to Prabhu Dayal. I mean, this was the state of affair. This. Now, Madhu Kishwar had done a lot of work. She has gone from places to places. Well, during the Wallace time also, she was trying to help the Sikhs. I mean, there were a number of other people. You see, the point is this. This was not like Hindu versus Sikhs. And all those person who have helped, we cannot call them, all Hindus have helped. There are people who are law abiding. There are people who are God fearing. This is an all class, all communities everywhere. But only the gundas and those who are hired and those who are staunch Congress supporters, they were killing. Now I tell you one example. Swami Agnivesh. Swami Agnivesh is a leader of Arya Samaj. Now, Arya Samaj, one group of Arya Samaj, led by Ram Gopal Sholwala, the ex-member of parliament of BJP, that group was killing the Sikhs. And later on in Mishra Commission, they were totally trying to justify the killing of the Sikhs. The other group led by Swami Agnivesh, they were saving the Sikhs. During the violence also going around saving the Sikhs, Agnivesh himself filed this affidavit. This is before Mishra Commission and this one is before Nanavati Commission. He himself filed it and gave his statement also. He appeared and he says that since he was wearing the saffron robes, so he used to go wherever the mob was has gathered. First mob thought he is part of them, but then he tried to convince them. He said many places when I convinced them, the mob convinced and they left. He has given this. Then he was also part of the peace march which was taken out by Chandrasekhar. So this is all those people who are law abiding, all those people who are God fearing, they were helping. They were helping. So this was a mixed reaction altogether. It's not that all Hindus were against the Sikhs. It's not that. But Congressite workers, the people who were the active Congressite workers and leaders, they were killing the Sikhs.
In addition to these cases, there are also reports of a priest at a temple that tried to save a widow and her sons.
Yes, that's a case of Joginder Kaur. Joginder Kaur was in Palm Colony in area, and her husband and her elder son were killed. Two younger sons, she cut their hairs and she took them and ran towards the fields. So they were hiding in the fields. This was November 2 and November 3 night. They were hiding in the fields. The mob came and traced them. So they started beating her children. Joginder Kaur said, we are Hindu, hum to Hindu hain, Hindu, aap kyun maar rahe ho? Somebody in the mob said, okay, you first verify that are they Sikhs or not. So then somebody said, take them to the mandir. We will ask the pujari if they are Hindus. That mandir was Sagarpur mandir. They took them to the Devika mandir in Sagarpur. They asked pujari that if you know them, are they Hindus or not? He said, okay, send them inside. He brought them inside the mandir and locked the gate. Mob was saying, send them out. Pujari locked the gate and sent them. When mob was being too violent, Pujari went out and locked the back gate also. They were asking to open the gate. When they could not break, they tried to break the gate. Then they could not break the gate of the mandir. They say, set the mandir on fire. So what kind of Hindus they were? They brought kerosene oil, threw kerosene oil in the mandir, and they set the mandir on fire. At that stage, Joginder Kaur said, I was crying, calling कि Hey Devi Ma, if you are there, help me. That's she has written in her affidavit. She says from on the back gate, one person, he was wrapped in a blanket. He came and he called me, बहन इधर आओ. कहती है, I went close. He said, कहाँ जाना है? तुम्हारे रिश्तेदार कहाँ रहते हैं? With where could you want to go? Where are your relations? She said, Maharani Bagh. He said, okay, I'll leave you there, you come out. She said, but how will you save us? There is such a huge mob. He said, don't worry, I have a revolver. I will save you. She said, I was hesitant, I didn't believe. He removed the blanket. He was in police uniform and with the revolver. She said, okay, I will. She said, we went to the gate and he went and announced from the Mandir speaker that terrorists have come on the railway line. Go that side. The whole mob ran towards the railway line. And in the meantime, he opened the lock. He brought Joginder Kaur and her two sons out. There were two other people wrapped in the blankets. They also came and joined them and they were taking them away. In the meantime, the mob came back. They say, why are you saving the Sikhs? He said, you can't touch them. The mob tells him, by saving these two Sikh boys, you are putting us to a loss of 500. So that means 500 for each killing of a Sikh was given to the mob. In front of Joginder Kaur, they tell that police inspector, why are you putting us to the loss of 500 each of them? But that police inspector didn't agree. Mob was agitated. They tried to forcibly take away her children. The police officer took out his revolver and the two other men who were wrapped in the blankets, they also removed their blankets and one of them had the revolver. He also took out. Tell the mob that go away, otherwise we'll shoot. Both of them were also in police uniform. So while they were taking away Joginder Kaur, on the way they told Joginder Kaur that I don't know how I felt pity on you, but otherwise we are killing Sikhs. This is what they told. And Joginder Kaur filed her affidavit. Before Mishra Commission, this is her affidavit in Punjabi before Mishra Commission. She had narrated the whole story and she has also narrated the story of this, that on the way in the conversation they told us that they have been otherwise killing the Sikhs. Mishra Commission had in details has mentioned Joginder Kaur affidavit. This is at page number 36 and 37. Mishra in his report has mentioned Joginder Kaur's affidavit, but the part of the affidavit which mentions that these police officers told us that we are otherwise killing the Sikhs, that part he deleted. Joginder Kaur appeared before Mishra Commission also. In her statement before Mishra Commission also she stated that they told me on the way that we got pity on you because I told you, sister, otherwise we are killing the Sikhs. In that statement also Mishra did not mention at all. And obviously no action was recommended. He totally ignored it. But this is a fact. Later on, we asked Joginder Kaur, that time to she said, I don't know the person. When the Nanavati proceedings were going on, we traced Joginder Kaur again. So I asked Joginder Kaur that, do you know who was this officer? She said, yes. He is retired now. I said, please tell us. He said, I won't tell you. He saved my children. I will not disclose her. She refused to disclose his name. So we tried our best to find out. We also lost this bit because Joginder Kaur didn't disclose the name. So this very material piece of evidence we lost. We couldn't get it. That who, under whose instruction. Obviously now we know under whose instructions. What is new for us? Now we know when in other episode I narrated you that officer of Raw, he was stopping the army, not allowing them to come in. When so many police officers, for so many high officer, DCP, police commissioner, everything, everybody was killing the Sikhs. And then there has been many instances where they will put a burning tire around the neck of a Sikh and then they will dance. They will do pangra. They dance, dance, dance. There were no mourners. The government tried to put the Hindu were agitated, they were mourning. They were no mourners. They were no agitated. They were the gundas. They were hired. Or some of them were following the instructions. They were the supporters of the Congress party. All of them. Other episode I mentioned to you, the PUDR report itself says in Turlokpuri area there were many Muslims who were among the killers of the Sikhs. You see, this violence was against one minority community against Sikhs. What the aggressors had no religion. It was the state versus the minority community. It was the Indian government and all its machinery, the ruling party versus Sikhs. Now you see, I tell you, as part of our team who were for giving justice to the victims and who were for giving relief to the victims, now you see the main person in them, and among them is Soli Sravji. He is a Parsi. The other person who represented the Kanpur and also came all the way to Delhi to represent the victims, Sultan Niazi, a senior advocate from Kanpur. Among the PUDR team, there were many people, many Christians. There were some Muslims also, PUDR team. Then Joseph Malyakan, when he spent the whole night trying to help the victims of Tarlokpuri over there, he was with Rahul Bedi. So this is not a particular religion against Sikhs. This was the state, the ruling party against the Sikhs. They were killing the Sikhs. Otherwise, all those people, those law-abiding citizens, everybody who God-fearing people, they all were there. They were helping the Sikhs. They were trying to save the Sikhs.
It is my pleasure to be joined by the renowned historian Professor Uma Chakravarti, a feminist historian who has been active with women's movements and democratic rights movements. In the aftermath of the 84 anti-Sikh pogrom, Professor Uma Chakravarti, along with Nandita Haksar, authored a path-breaking book compiling oral histories and testimonies of survivors of the violence. Thank you so much, Professor Chakravarti, for taking the time to be with us here today.
Thank you for helping to archive 1984.
Could you speak a bit about the Nagrik Ekta Manch?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things, of course, that happened is that so civil rights groups, civil and democratic rights groups were compiling the account of the, let's say, the chain that they could explore, a chain that went up to the manner in which the officialdom was involved in the cover up of the riots or even the instigation of the riots. Civil rights groups, on the other hand, and we were like occupying some kind of double position, because you're on the one hand you're collecting all this material, on the other hand you are actually throwing yourself in relief work. For instance, when I mentioned to you that we went to Ludlow Castle, we went as relief workers, kind of, So now this is happening across the city, and as you know, I mean, ultimately the target of the violence was in the brunt of the killings, and the most gruesome parts of the violence was being enacted in the poorer colonies, Trilakpuri, Sultanpuri, Outer Delhi, and so on. So immediately there was need for houses had been burnt, people had fled, and they were, there was a need for sustaining them physically, emotionally. We've never been able to put, say, psychological support in place at following any riot. It's one of our biggest failures. But the point is there was a kind of healing when people actually told you their stories, and they wept before you. It was a kind of catharsis that they were also experiencing. So the Nagrik Ekta Manch then became the civil society, um, multiple groups, women's groups. Women's groups played an amazing part at that time. So democratic rights groups played a part in the in actually the process of justice. But it's the civil rights group, sorry, it's the feminist groups and other kinds of local neighborhood kind of communities that emerged, who were naturally upset and outraged. So they poured out in a variety of ways. So that's what led to then the Nagrik Ekta Manch being set up. But anyone who was involved in any kind of small organization might had jumped in and was providing relief and so on. So the Nagrik Ekta Manch then became the umbrella organization through which the relief work, relief material was being assembled and so on. So actually we were not. If you were to turn around and say, who were we at that point of time, or someone like me or my students from Miranda House or university students generally, we were everywhere. I mean, you might be collecting the narrative around the violence and who's guilty, and at the same time, you were also the ones who were marshalling the relief work, relief material, and going in trucks with the relief material, talking to people, giving out the relief material, and then also and willy-nilly those stories were being collected. I mean, kya hua, kaise hua, kitne log मारे गए and so on. So वो प्रोसेस जो था उसमें नागरिक एकता मंच और students from Delhi universities played a very important role.
There were schools as well, ma'am, that had been set up by fellow teachers.
Yeah, that actually came much later. It came a few months later. So there was school that was informal school that was run during the summer vacation. So this had happened in November, and for a while, actually one was doing the reports and continuing to do the relief work and whatever it is, and then by the summer it was necessary. It was clear, the trauma counseling had not happened, but I think it was decided that it was an impulse that was needed. It was considered that something has to be done for the children who have suffered that kind of trauma. So that was a fantastic effort that was made. In IP College, there was a group, there was teachers, particularly Meeta Bose, whom we recently lost, and that's terribly tragic, who was an extraordinary, committed, and constructively engaged with the trauma and the healing process, and the idea of these children being whatever. Now, Meeta Bose had also, and this is there in the book, in this book called The Delhi Riots, so you can see this. There's a great interview, a very powerful interview of Meeta Bose, who describes attempt to save a widow from one of the 84 survivors from going into a depression and trying to salvage her, her life. She was particularly traumatized because she lost at least two or maybe even three children to the violence. They were older boys. But there was a little boy who was 2.5 years old, her last child, her son, who somehow the father took hold of and said, I will keep him with me. And he was hiding in some place. He got killed. That little boy got killed along with the father. Now, the tragedy for Shanti was the name of the mother. which something she never got reconciled to, was that that child was not meant to die. Even in that horrible barbaric moment, that child would have been safe. It was, they were not targeting little children, but he got killed. And she could not recover from that shock. It was like such a terrible blow to her. And she somehow felt she couldn't recover from that. She had two daughters, Bubbly and something else, and I can't remember the second one's name. They were older, they were girls, and they were not, obviously, they were safe because they were women. They were girls. But Shanti never got over the shock of this boy going, and she went into a depression and she killed herself. She committed suicide. It's one of the most tragic stories in this book. Meeta was very involved with trying to rescue those two little girls. I think she wanted to adopt them, but that didn't work out, and whatever it was. So Meeta was very central along with others, in setting up the school. And then, a number of people like Sharmila, Daman, Shuddhabrata Sengupta, they were Safina Oberoi, they were all involved in the running of that school in the summer vacation. So they organized a bus that would come from the resettlement colony to the, not the colony, they hadn't gone back to the colony, wherever they were, in camps or whatever. They would bring, the kids would come for 3 or 4 hours in the summer vacation, and they would do activities with them. I mean, in my archive, my paper archive, I have little accounts of people who wrote, students who wrote the process of collecting stories and whatever it is. Anyway, so that effort was meant to heal them to some extent, and they were doing dramatic exercises because many of these kids were from what was called the music theatre workshop that Barry John, Faisal Al-Qazi, later Faisal Al-Qazi, I think Paramveer, they were all involved in that. So these students had some theatric techniques to catharsize them and so on. And that was a very interesting experiment that they conducted. So some effort was made in that direction also, to heal the kids, the children, who can't express themselves. There's a story that was documented as part of that effort, where there was a little Sardar boy who was mute. So he couldn't speak. So on his journey, in the bus ride, there was a poster. I think it must have been past April, because the elections had been declared and whatever it was. And so there was the hand of the Congress, the symbol tha. And then nearby, in whatever, or maybe in his book, in his exercise book or whatever it is, there was a picture of Guru Nanak Ji with his hand. And this little boy, who was mute otherwise, showed that hand, which was the hand of the killer in them, as he put it, and then countered it with the hand of the blesser, which is the Guru Nanak's blessing hand. So he was making his own statement about the nature of the violence and how the violence was perceived by this little boy, and he expressed himself very movingly, in my opinion. So that's one of the things that I remember about that thing.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for being so generous with your time for this project. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for
Thank you so much.
recording it. Archiving is very important.
Absolutely.
As I said,
Absolutely.
this book is all about archiving and recording the voices of people. So I'm happy to be part of that process.